students, today we will discuss organisms and population. The second topic, that is responses to abiotic factors. Now what are the abiotic factors that already we discussed in the last class? That is temperature, water, light and soil. So towards that, what are the adaptive features of, or how do the organism responds towards this abiotic factors? So first one, always remember, response to abiotic factors in order to maintain homeostasis. In order to maintain homeostasis. Now what is homeostasis? It is the constant environment that organism maintains inside the body. That is called the homeostasis. So it's a self-regulated device that maintains an internal constant environment. Now here, the first response is regulate. Now what is in regulate? Homeostasis is maintained by ensuring constant body temperature and constant osmotic concentration. So in regulate we will discuss here body temperature and osmotic concentration. Now how these are called the thermoregulation, that is the body temperature maintenance, and osmotic concentration maintenance is known as this osmoregulation process, which your kidney does. All birds, mammals and few lower vertebrates and invertebrates are endothons. They have the mechanism of thermoregulation, osmoregulation for maintaining their homeostasis. The mechanism used for regulation in most mammals are similar to ones the humans who have constant body temperature, that is 37 degrees Celsius. So during, you know that during summer we used to sweat, that is to cool down the temperature of the blood, and during the winter we shiver, and that is to warm up our body temperature. Now the next one is conforms. Now this is conformers actually. 99% of animals are conformers here, and they are called as, their body temperature changes to the ambient temperature, and that is called ectothons. So ectothons are those whose body temperature is changing but whose body temperature is constant, then we say that endothons, right? So who are the Osmo Conformers? Here one more type, different Osmo Conformers. Now who are these Osmo Conformers? Majority of aquatic animals change their osmotic concentration of the body fluids according to the environment. That's called Osmo Conformers. So thermoregulation is energetically expensive for many organisms. This is especially true for all small animals like shrews and hummingbirds. So heat loss or heat gain is a function of surface area. So if heat is lost for the body or gain is actually dependent on the surface area. Now you can get three kinds of graphs there in the conformers. So one is the straight line one, the red line, okay, and then one is a totally slanting one, then one is little bit deviated from that, like this, isn't it? So the slanting one is the conformers, the regulators, and the partial regulators. So this is called as regulator, these are called as conformers, and these are called as partial regulator. Three diagrammatic presenters organic response. So three types of responses we have observed. So who are the conformers? That totally conform their body situation and they made a equilibrium kind of thing, and regulators are those who maintain their temperature or they maintain the body fluids concentration as per the environment. And who are the partial regulators? During the course of evolution, some species have got the ability to regulate their environmental condition, but only over a limited range, beyond which they simply conform. So that is called partial regulators. Now the next one is migrate. Now what is migration? You all know that birds do migrate. Similarly, many other species also migrate. So migration is what that moves away from that extreme conditions of environment and temporarily, okay. And when the conditions become normal, they come back to that place. So birds, they do the like that migration. So that Koleodo National Park in Bharatpur, Rajasthan hosts thousands of migratory birds, isn't it, from Siberia and other cold countries, because that time they cannot withstand that. Now the suspend means what? For a temporary time being, there is the suspension of life process. So some bacteria, fungi and lower plants under unfavorable condition form thick walled spores to overcome stressful conditions, and these spores germinate to the onset of suitable environment. Higher plants, then seeds and some other vegetative reproductive structures, that is propagules, help to pass over this stress period. And similarly, you have heard, I think, hibernation and estivation. And there is also one term that is called diapause, isn't it? So hibernation is what? Most of the reptiles and amphibians, they go under the soil during winter season to escape the environment. And estivation is also called summer sleep, which they try to end extreme temperature they want to avoid. And diapause is a stage of suspended development seen in zooplankton. So temporarily they suspend their body activity, so developmental stage, that is called the diapause, which is exhibited by zooplankton. Similarly, if we go for adaptation, now what is adaptation? Now adaptation is what? We have all studied adaptive features, then attribute of an organism, morphological, physiological, behavioral. So this is, what are the three kinds of morphology, then behavior, and then anatomy, then physiological. So these attributes, where these attributes change and that enables the organism to reproduce in its habitat, that is called adaptation. Now there are several organisms are there whose adaptive features are very, very important, like adaptation in desert plants. If you get a xerophyte, that is a cactus, then different types of adaptations are there. Xerophyte cactus is a good example for it. So the roots grow very deep into explore any possibility available underground water. Many desert plants like thick cuticle on the leaf surface, stomata, sunken stomata, and they follow SCAM pathway, crussolution acid metabolism. And desert plants like opuntia have no leaves, leaves are reduced to spines. So lots of different adaptive features are seen in cactus, and that help enable the cactus to adapt the xerophytic habitat. Similarly, in aquatic habitat, if the hydrophyte is there, we have floating plants as well as we have submerged plants. So aquatic plants and hydrophytes evolved parenchyma for buoyancy and floating, and they also leaves are covered with a wax. Even submerged plant, they are weight proof, and mucilaginous covering is also there to protect them. Now in the halophytic plants, like adaptation to salty condition, and that's called halophytic plants. And halophytic plants, the plants of saline habitats, not only have the ability to tolerate high concentration of salt in their rooting medium, but they are also able to obtain the water supply from the same. And the example is coastal areas, you can get mangroves are the example best, who are totally adapted to this saline condition, and they have one kind of roots that helps them a lot, that pneumatophores. They have lenticels which help them in the respiration process. Similarly, adaptation in animals, if you say in adaptation in any animal like kangaroo rat. The kangaroo rat in North America desert is capable of meeting all its water requirements by internal oxidation of its body fat, and it is also concentrating urine, and minimal volume of water is used to expel this excretory product. Similarly, adaptation in desert lizard. What happens in desert? They absorb heat from the sun when the body temperature drops below their comfort zone and move into shade when the ambient temperature starts increasing. And some species burrow into the soil and escape from the above ground heat. That's behavioral response. And similarly, adaptation in mammals also, colder climates generally have shorter ears. So there is a rule called Allen's rule. Now what this Allen's rule suggests that the mammals of colder climates, they have the shorter ears. Okay, so shorter ears and limbs to minimize the heat loss. Similarly, in polar regions also aquatic mammals have scales, thick layer, blubber below their skin, and that acts as insulator, so reduce the loss of body heat. Similarly, if you say high altitude, another adaptation is seen in the high altitude. What happens in the high altitude? The Rotang Pass near Manali or the Mansarovar in China, that is in Tibet, people suffer from altitude sickness, and the common symptoms nausea, fatigue, heart palpitations. So body does not get enough oxygen, that's why these problems occur. But the relief occurs gradually due to acclimatization. So acclimatization, that is the adapting to that habitat. The body copes up with this low oxygen stress by increasing red blood cells production, decreasing the binding affinity of hemoglobin, and increasing the breathing rate. So this is a few topics that I have discussed in this organisms and evolution population, and please go through NCERT. Join the class tomorrow. Thank you.